have separate recordings. Okay, we have a new pranayama today. It's called Sitkari Pranayama. We will read the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Hatha Yoga Pradipika chapter 2, Sutra 54. Then Sitkari is described. Make a hissing sound with the mouth and release only through the nostril. By the yoga consisting of repeated practice of this, one becomes a second god of beauty, Kama Deva. Deva is a god, Kama is not beauty but desire. There is a book, an entire book is dedicated to Kama or desire. It's called the Kama Sutra. Interesting. First of all, the technique. Fast Shiva inflow. We did Shiva inflow in the second part of Nadi Shodhana Pranayama. So inflow from the top. But now you accelerate the inflow using thought. You will Shiva energy to flow in, not in a normal way, but faster than usual. Sounds a little bit strange, but it's simply more intense inflow, a more intense feeling. What works best to do that is to intensely listen to nada, because nada is accompanied by Shiva inflow, or the opposite. Shiva inflow is accompanied by nada. That is why when you're tired or sick, when the body is absorbing lots of nada to recover, nada is always loud. So intensely focus on nada and imagine large amounts of Shiva energy. Imagine, use your imagination, large amount of Shiva to flow in, counting to 20. Then you release only through the nostril. You let Shiva out. Just normal, not accelerated, just normal. So Shiva in, accelerated, Shiva out. By the yoga consisting of repeated practice of this, one becomes a second god of beauty. You believe that? Is that true? Is it realistic? When Shakti energy dominates, you burn up. Literally, oxidation occurs in the cells. That is why you become exhausted. If you're constantly active, meaning rajas, in a rajas condition, you become exhausted if you don't take a rest. You know what people look like who are chronically fatigued, chronically exhausted? They look old. You can see this, a very extreme example. You can see this with alcoholics, people who drink alcohol frequently. They look 10, 15 years older than their actual age. They're constantly burning up. Oxidation. We live in a world where anybody who cares about food and about health is talking about antioxidants. And there's a multi-billion-dollar industry around antioxidants in the form of food supplements, vitamins and minerals, and all kinds of foodstuffs. You read about chia seeds and you read about all these seeds and nuts these days that are so popular are only popular for one thing. They are antioxidant. Save yourself a lot of money and practice Sitkari Pranayama. It does the same. Sitkari Pranayama is an antioxidant. And it is free. How does it work? Shakti energy is necessary to be active, but if it is out of balance, it wears us out. Literally, it burns us up. Shiva energy is responsible for the regeneration of our cells. So naturally, if you have sufficient amounts of Shiva energy, your cell structure is healthier. You look better, naturally. So you become, that is symbolical language, a second god of beauty. The first god of beauty is, of course, God, the universe. You can never be on that first spot, but you can be a second god of beauty. The next sutra expands on that. 55. You become an object of high regard among the circles of yogis and yoginis, other people. You're able to create and destroy. Neither hunger nor thirst, somnolence nor indolence arise in you. You become an object of high regard among the circles of other people. What does it mean? You become more attractive. We live in a world where we think beauty is about perfection. Especially in Korea. If the face is not 100% symmetric, you are considered to be not beautiful. There are many people with a symmetric face considered to be beautiful, but when you look at them and feel them, you don't feel any attraction at all. Sometimes even the opposite. You feel revulsion or resistance. The beauty is, real beauty is not in the symmetry. Real beauty is in the radiation that comes from you. Real beauty is in your heart. Everybody knows that, at least subconsciously. And yet, we have a tendency to focus on the superficial element of beauty. It's literally superficial. Most people who are physically very beautiful do not possess a beautiful heart. It is rare to find somebody who is both physically beautiful and has a beautiful heart. There are some, that's nice. But the two are not linked with each other. So the beauty that we often talk about is superficial. While real beauty has nothing to do with what you look like. You can meet somebody who, on first sight, you think, nah, that is not attractive to me. Just because only your first impression is the physical features of that person. But then when you come closer and you get to know that person, it's very possible that you just fall in love with that person just because of their character, just because of their beautiful mind, their beautiful heart. And the opposite is also true. You can meet somebody and on the surface think, wow, beautiful, I would like to be with that person. And then when you come a little bit closer and you become familiar with the character of that person, you feel resistance, you feel revulsion. Ideal is if both elements are present, but in most cases. The most important really is the content and not the package, the wrap. It really is, for the long term. Practice yoga. You will be able to create and destroy. That sounds very scary, right? And you have many of those mythological drawings in Buddhism, in Hinduism, where you see ferocious gods destroying the earth. But that's symbolism. This is subtle. Create and destroy. Which energy is responsible for creation? Shiva energy. Shiva energy is the energy that manifests into matter. When a woman is pregnant, carrying the baby in their belly, they go through a period when they become very radiant, shining, because of Shiva energy. You become a god of beauty. Why a pregnant woman? Because that baby in their belly is multiplying cells like crazy, sometimes doubling in a day. Huge amounts of Shiva energy that go through the mom, of course, are involved in that process. The Shiva energy is responsible for creation. Destruction, that is Shakti energy. Oxidation. So Shakti energy is important, but if it is present in large amounts, in uncontrolled amounts, it leads to destruction. That is what creation and destruction means. What does it mean, literally or practically? You have learned to master energy control. You're able to create and destroy. You're able to increase Shiva or increase Shakti at will, by choice. That is what this means. Able to create and destroy. Neither hunger nor thirst, somnolence nor indolence. Somnolence and indolence are tamas conditions. Conditions caused by tamas. Hunger and thirst occurs when we need to feed ourselves. Shiva energy is in fact a way of feeding ourselves without material food. So no surprise that this sutra tells us that your hunger and thirst reduces when you start feeding yourself in a controlled way with Shiva energy, with Sitkari Pranayama. It is only natural, indeed, that your hunger and thirst do reduce in people who practice yoga. Very mistakenly, people have then created diet yoga. Not practicing real yoga, but just like any other exercise class, burning calories by sweating and doing a lot of effort and exhausting yourself, while the reality is subtle, of course, and much easier and simpler. Practice yoga on a regular basis, which does increase Shakti and Shiva, and you naturally reduce hunger and thirst, so very naturally and gradually you will lose weight if you have excess weight. No need to sweat and burn muscle and what have you and get exhausted. An example of hunger and thirst being eliminated, that is this little yogi guy by the name of Prahlajani, who died recently. Prahlajani is a yogi who claimed not to have eaten or drank any food or liquid since he was 11 years old or 8 years old, I forgot exactly, but since he was a child. And when asked about it, he says, I feed myself through a hole in the palate. I feed myself through a hole in the palate. He drinks Shiva energy to feed himself. And he controls that to such a high level that he doesn't need food or liquid. That sounds unbelievable. Nobody believes that. So they put him in controlled circumstances for the first time. 10 years ago, they put him in a hospital surrounded by cameras 24 hours a day for 10 days. Doing tests on him and 24 hours surveillance, CCTV. And they just couldn't catch him eating or drinking or going to the toilet, ever. 10 years later, they did it again and they extended the period to 14 days with the same result. Actually, if you look at him, he kind of shows the symptoms of an animal that is undernourished. You know, sometimes people buy a dog because as a puppy it looks very pretty. But when that dog becomes an adult, it becomes a big dog. And the people who buy that dog actually didn't want to have a big dog. So they express their worry to the veterinarian. In Korea, the veterinarians say, oh, just don't feed your dog so much. Just give your dog less food. What happens if a baby needs to be fed 6, 7, 8 times a day. So if you don't feed your baby dog, it's undernourished, then you end up with a dog with a big head and a small body. Have you ever seen that? Prahlajani looks like that. He has a big head and a small body, which indicates he must have been kind of undernourished. But apart from that, he just claims to not have eaten or drank anything all his life, at least those periods that he was in controlled circumstances. They couldn't catch him doing anything like that. It's impossible. You can stop eating for 10 days or 14 days, but you cannot stop drinking for so long. You would die. Anybody would die not drinking any liquid for so long. He feeds himself through a hole in the palate. That is this. Actually, it's Kechari Mudra. Kechari Mudra is the exercise where you drink the drink of the gods, soma and ambrosia. That is not a real drink. It's symbolically called the drink of the gods. It's Shiva energy. Kechari Mudra is the mudra where you take in Shiva energy, but in a supercharged mode. Did you learn Kechari Mudra?
Yes.
Anyway, interesting stuff. This also in a practical way means that you must avoid exhaustion. When you're tired, take a rest. It also means that the society that we live in, that is dictated, dominated by the clock is not healthy because it leads to exhaustion. Working 8-10 hours a day without break or only short break actually is not healthy. It leads to oxidation, leads to Shakti, it leads to aging. A real yogi in the end is not able anymore to work a full-time job. You recognize that, JT? "56. Strength of body is gained by this practice, and the Lord of Yogins becomes surely free of afflictions of every kind on this earthly sphere." Yeah, clearly Shiva energy is responsible for regeneration of the cells. You become healthier and thus stronger. You must have felt starting practicing yoga. No weightlifting, no aerobics, or what's the other thing? I forgot. These days very popular. Scandal arose because the owner.
CrossFit.
Yeah, CrossFit. CrossFit is to build strength and muscle. If you practice yoga without sweat, without burning muscle, you feel an incredible increase of strength. Have you noticed? You fall in love with yoga when you experience that. Without the pain, without the sweating, without the suffering and the exhaustion. Wow, so good. That is this sutra. If people only knew how nice traditional yoga is, they would stop thinking that it is boring. 99% of all yoga classes is modern yoga with sweating and burning muscle and exhaustion. There are only very few classes that are in accordance with traditional yoga. If people only knew how wonderful it is, how great it is, the effect on your whole being, physically and mentally, everybody would leave the modern yoga classes and flock to the traditional yoga classes. We live in a very strange world. Very superficial. Good. That's it. Questions? After exercise, I will explain again the mudra and then the pranayama also. Yes, Thomas?
I have a question about Ujjayi Pranayama.
Yeah. Ujjayi.
I'm not really clear why we did that one standing up.
You do it standing up. It's in the text. You do it standing up because it stimulates because you are working on both energies at the same time, and doing it standing up simply reinforces the inflow.
Okay. So we're going to be sitting down again today.
Yeah, Ujjayi is the only pranayama where you stand up. All other pranayama is done sitting on your cushion. Okay. Let's have a short break. It was a little bit long.